U.S. officials are investigating one of the most sophisticated cyber attacks. It targeted several major U.S. banks, including a Wall Street giant. The federal government is trying to figure out who's behind the security breach, as well as the scope of the attack. Arise News' Safiya Songhai reports.
Hackers hit J.P. Morgan Chase and at least 4 other banks in a coordinated cyber attack, possibly getting away with customer checking and savings account information. J.P. Morgan released a statement saying, "Companies of our size unfortunately experience cyber attacks nearly every day. We have multiple layers of defense to counteract any threats and constantly monitor fraud levels." J.P. Morgan says it has not yet seen any suspicious activity. Bloomberg first reported the attack and said it appeared to be the work of Russian cyber thieves. It was a sophisticated operation well beyond the capabilities of amateur hackers. And reports suggest the theft may be in retaliation for U.S. financial sanctions against Russia. The FBI said in a statement, "Combating cyber threats and criminals remains a top priority for the United States government, and we are constantly working with American companies to fight cyber attacks." A World Economic Forum report issued last year found companies are losing ground to cyber attacks. 80% of executives surveyed said their organizations cannot keep up with the increasing sophistication of hackers. Safiya Songhai, Arise News.
Scott Aurnou is the Vice President of Soho Solutions, an IT consulting and services company featuring cybersecurity expertise. Scott, welcome to Arise America. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, what did these hackers get access to? What were they able to do?
We still haven't got a straight answer on that. As far as we know, we heard they got gigabytes of data. What that translates to in English, a gigabyte is, if you break it down to paper, it's about 75,000 pages. So a gigabyte of data could be an awful lot of account information. Supposedly, this focused on checking and savings account info. That's part of the thing that makes this a little confusing. The first thought is, well, it might have been a government attack, but typically government attacks are about taking sites offline, making them non-functional, not stealing individuals' data. That's what's so strange about this.
Well, let me then ask you this. Why then do, whether it's the government or other experts like yourself, think that the Russians are behind this? Is there a fingerprint here?
Well, right now we don't know for sure about a specific fingerprint, but there's certain things that would point to this because it went after J.P. Morgan in particular. A few weeks ago, it was a very big story on Russian media that J.P. Morgan had refused a transaction by a Russian embassy to an outside bank. This was a huge big deal, and it was considered extremely offensive, and I think it was called absurd. It's possible they may have been targeted in retaliation, but like I say, it's an odd attack coming from a state.
And was that a part of the sanctions that have been imposed by the U.S. against
Exactly.
Russia? All right. So then how could cyber attackers, whether they're Russian or not, penetrate J.P. Morgan Chase? It's the largest bank in the U.S. We don't know the names of those other 4, but I imagine they're pretty big and sophisticated.
Yeah, that would be my thought.
You would think they have pretty good security.
They have fantastic security. They have what's called defense in depth, so it's not a layer or 2 layers, it's layer after layer after layer. That's the part that points to a government, because a normal set of hackers getting through that would be quite odd. It's some hard stuff to penetrate, and the fact that they got in the first place says whoever was behind this had to be very sophisticated.
So how worried should J.P. Morgan Chase and customers of these other banks, when we find out which ones they are, how worried should we be?
J.P. Morgan invariably says, well, we've seen no fraudulent conduct, which sounds great, except the way fraud actually works is you don't see the theft till much later when you stop thinking about it. Target, you're not going to see, for example, right after that happens. You're going to see it months and months and months later when it's out of mind. Then later on, the hackers will show up when you're not thinking about it anymore. It's like, I don't remember making that charge. That's usually how that actually works.
So is there anything that consumers or customers of these banks can do proactively to protect themselves?
Well, theoretically, you'd have the bank, you'd call them up, you'd ask them for help with it, but generally speaking, right now you have to wait and see what they say, because we don't have enough information about it. And there's a lot of sort of misleading information coming out, because everyone's trying to be on top of the story and get quoted as so-and-so from X security company said this happened.
And it might be speculation on your part, but in your conversations with your fellow experts in this field, any idea of who these other 4 banks are?
Not a clue, at least not yet.
Is that unusual?
That they get hacked, or that we don't know who they are yet?
That we don't know who they are.
Oh, some people do, just the word hasn't gotten out yet.
I see. All right, we'll leave it right there, Scott Aurnou. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice
Appreciate
to
being
talk
on.
to you.